Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day, wherever you're at, whenever you're watching this. We're going to be jumping into some Warhammer 40k here. Apparently, I missed one of the videos that DQVO put out in the End and the Death series here. I guess there was a prelude video that was supposed to be the start of all of this. So we're going to do a little rewindage and go back to the beginning. And we're going to check out the End and the Death 3, The Emperor Marches to Horus voiceover prelude. So yeah, that's what we're going to check out here today. Links, as always, will be down below in the description to DQVO's channel and to this video without my commentary and reaction. So please do me a favor, if you enjoy this video as we go through it, be sure to go over to his channel, give it a like, and check out his content. He does a lot of great voiceover work for Warhammer 40k. Makes a lot of great videos in that universe. So check out his stuff. If you enjoy it, be sure to show him some love. Hit that sub on his channel. If you'd like to join us when I do these reactions live, as I am right now with my YouTube members, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube members benefits and tiers and whatnot that I have to offer. So if you'd like to take your support to the channel to the next level, you can check all those out and see if you happen to have any interest for you. You can, like I said, join us when we do these reactions live, get priority any kind of reaction requests you might have, etc., etc. So check all that stuff out if you have any interest in that. But regardless, I just appreciate you guys coming and taking the time out of your busy day to watch these videos and hang out with us. So with all that said, without further ado, jump into this video. Again, this is the End and the Death 3 Emperor Marches to Horus voiceover prelude by DQVO. The End and the Death 3. Dan Abnett. The Emperor's March to Horus.
They come to a place where, out of banks of sickly mist, rise the ruins of the most ancient city they have yet found. Loken feels they have traveled not just further
the
into
man,
the
the myth, the legend,
geography
Loken,
of the inevitable city, but deeper into the layers of its history, too. If it is all the cities that have ever been, blended into one by the tidal action of the warp, then they are reaching the primeval heart of it, the parts that man didn't make. Gone, for the most part, are the cobbled streets and peg-tiled roofs, the tumble-down timber-beam houses and stone bridges that, though derelict, showed the handmarks of human construction. Infrequent, too, are the intruding traces of the palace, or his father's flagship, which had become commingled with this realm. There are odd scraps, sections of inlaid golden wall panel, an auramite door, brief sections of Scylla-pattern decking, but they are few, and they seem less like things than the recollection of things kept in the warp's remembrance. Here, now, rise gaunt ashlar columns and blocks of grey diorite, truncated pillars of grim stone and black skeletal flying buttresses that support nothing. All the structures are wrecked, and all are monumental. They rise from the slow, bile-green mist like ancient leviathan creatures turned to stone by a vindictive gorgon. Some are caked in acid-yellow lichen, or lurid scarlet moss. They show no signs of human toolwork or terrestrial manufacture, and the scale of the arches and doorways dwarfs even the gleaming golden figure that Loken and the others are following. The site looks like some citadel that has risen from an oceanic gulf after eons of submerged slumber. Or, perhaps, the fathomless dark waters that concealed it have somehow drained away and left it, steaming and exposed.
I'm trying to think of where they're at, right? Like, this is supposed to be during the Siege of Terra, and this is supposed to be, I guess, the Emperor getting ready to go, you know, meet him on Horus's flagship, right? So I assume that this is someplace on Terra that has been twisted by the warp as, you know, portals have been opening and demons have been coming in. And I guess they're like maybe walking through some of the streets or corridors, and they're going over some of the places that have been, yeah, twisted by the warp, I guess. That's what I'm imagining right now, anyway.
Into the air. Above, the brimstone clouds of the warp storm swirl in a thunderhead 1,000 kilometers wide, laced with veins of pink lightning and vivid fuchsia flashes.
Gotcha, okay.
It comes as little surprise that
So
the
they're already on the
never-born
ship.
breeds lurking in these ruins are similarly the biggest and most ancient yet. They have fought many demon things since they parted company with the Perpetuals, Pearson and Grammaticus. They have hacked their path through night-haunting ghouls and horned goatkin in cobbled lanes, and rent their way past tentacled horrors and bone-winged vultures on crumbling aqueducts and cracked stone causeways. Loken's armor, like Litu's and the Preconsuls, is badged with demon ichor and never-born gore. But blood does not seem to adhere to the Emperor's gleaming plate. Something stirs in the mist to oppose them. It is gargantuan and oil black, the size of a palace gateway. Its true shape is hard to discern, for it has little symmetry. Glossy wet pseudopods writhe like seaweed in a current, and thorned insectile legs as thick as trees raise it out of the murk. Immense horns, as dry and cracked as those of an old cattle skull, curve from the dark cliff of its brow. It glistens wet, dripping, and it wears a cloak of blinking, sightless eyes like a skein of bubbles. Loken, Litu, and even Kekaltas balk at the mass of it, but the golden figure ahead of them does not falter. Every step of the way he has not broken stride.
Oh, we got Emperor fighting
He has
Cthulhu here.
maintained his urgent pace, fighting on the move, killing his way onwards, refusing to be slowed down or delayed. The Emperor, a lustrous golden shape made tiny by the behemoth ahead, increases his step. He starts to stride, then run, his warblade looping in his hand until the blade catches fire. Ashamed of their momentary hesitation, Loken, Kekaltas, and Litu rush to follow him. The never-born giant is completely silent. It utters no roar, nor growl, nor voice of any kind. The only sounds the wet slap of its moving bulk, the thump of its tread, the crack and cascade of the pillars and ashlar blocks that it brushes against and knocks down, and the constant spatter of liquid and loose eyes streaming off its flank and splashing the ground.
That's like a hell of a visual to think of, right? This giant, black obscured mass thing just making these wet sloshing noises and like slapping noises as it moves around like bleh.
The Emperor is moving like a sprinter, head down, his stride long and sure. He races at the beast with the accelerating focus of a savanna cat chasing down its prey. Tentacles, black and grease-sheen, lash and snake whipping like the bandoleros and ribbon pennants of a black legion. He evades, still closing, striking them aside with a blade that burns and severs. Loken smells the reek of boiled blood and burned meat. The Emperor leaps, no longer a sprinting feline but the sure-footed antelope that bounds to escape it. He lands on a founded basalt block that slants upwards like a ramp, rushes to its mossy lip and hurls himself into the air. His warblade rises, a burning brand clenched in both hands. He brings it down as he descends. There is a jolting crack as though lightning has struck the ground nearby, driven by the descending golden form. The blade connects with the great beast's formless face. Lambent blue psych fire erupts from the splitting wound, scoring the black flesh. The hulking thing shudders backwards, shivering from the impact. Blood, or some brown fluid that passes for blood, showers out in prodigious volume, a torrent that splashes and churns along the ancient pavement. The Emperor lands, feet firmly planted, his knees bent to absorb the impact, then springs upright again, still moving. He's under its neck and chin now, scything through the mane of tentacles and tendrils that sinuate to clasp and block him. Loken closes, running hard to add his blade to the fight. Words are suddenly bright in his head. By his will alone. He turns, Kekaltus has slid to a halt and called the warning. Leto has heard it as well and broken his charge. Neverborn shapes are swarming through the ruins on either side of them, seeking to encircle the four warriors and drive them towards the great beast. Some are shaggy humanoids with cloven feet and short, sharp cervine horns jutting backwards from their long, equine skulls. They snort and whinny, eyes mad, and wield flint axes and ironwood clubs. Others are hairless, eyeless brutes the size of bologrins, hunch-shouldered and dagger-toothed, their filthy hides painted with ritual designs. None of them are less than 3 meters tall. They rush in from both sides and from behind, leaping from stone blocks or emerging from the shadows between broken columns. They utter a war cry as they come, a guttural ululation in some alien tongue that, though Loken can't understand it, feels like an expression of his father's name. The 3 warriors meet the brute attack with a rage of their own. The Preconsul's guardian spear whirls and slices like an immaculate parade ground display, pulling arcs of blood through the air like streamers. Leto holds his ground with scrupulous technique, turning and thrusting, the loned blade mourn it all, with utter confidence now he has grown to know its balance and character. Loken plows into the foe instead of waiting for them to come to him. Once more, the Emperor has shared his strength with the last loyal son of Horus, channeling a fire through Loken's soul that lights up Rubio's sword with such force no materia can stop it. It goes through hide and meat, through tusk and bone, through wood and iron. The Neverborn try to overcome him with sheer numbers, massing around him, clubbing and tearing and grappling, but flint blades shatter like ice against his carapace and his fist breaks as many skulls as his blade opens throats. He is quickly hosed in gore that smokes like acid and sticks like treacle. A great cry shakes the air, a profound bellow that shivers even the largest slabs of stone around them. The abhuman Neverborn, still alive, recoil and flee, shrieking back into the shadows and the mist. The great demon beast has made the first and only utterance of its life, a death cry of despair, perhaps, or disbelief.
I wanted to wait until we got to the point where I could kind of pause it, but I mean, that whole like series of battle there and the descriptors, like, it paints a pretty crazy image of the Emperor just going to town in this kind of nondescript tentacle giant demon beast. And honestly, it's like tales like this that I would love to hear kind of more of. I would love to hear more of the Emperor and him taking action and what his capabilities are. You know, like, that's one of the things, and this was talked about a little bit in the Sigmar video I did in Warhammer Fantasy, right? Like, the Sigmar, you get to actually hear of his tales and see the things that he did and was capable of and kind of like follow his journey along. The Emperor in 40K has always been very much like a mystery. You don't really know exactly who or what he is, really exactly who or what he's capable of. Is he really on the level of a god or a chaos god, you know, in mortal form? Is he like really the most powerful, like, mortal being to exist presently or maybe ever? Or, you know, is he even like really human, or is he something else? You know, there's so much mystery. And I've talked about this a little bit before. I really think that it would be, I don't think they'll do it, but something that I think would be awesome for them to do, right, is like Amazon is trying to create a 40K cinematic universe, you know, and despite whatever, you know, whoever Cavill's going to play and whatever he's going to do, I think it would be interesting for them to do a series, maybe a 3 to 5 season series on the Unification Wars, and either from the Emperor or from Malcador's perspective, talk about the Emperor and the things that he did and the battles that he had and everything he did with the Thunder Warriors leading up, you know, to him unifying Earth and the initial creation of the Primarchs and the Astartes, and then, you know, ending, I guess, potentially with them destroying the Thunder Warriors and then starting the Great Crusade. But, you know, that stuff that really hasn't been, as far as I understand, really fully fleshed out in the books. It's always been something that kind of referenced to and has been left as somewhat of a mystery. There's some tales where they get into it a little bit, but I think it would be something that would be unique that they could do in the cinematic universe that, again, hasn't been fully fleshed out in the books. So it would be something that would bring a lot of people in to see, because, again, it would be new content, new territory that even old school 40K fans, you know, haven't seen the full picture of. And I would just love to see it. I would love to see, you know, all that stuff in the Unification Wars, all the various cyber barbarian warlords and how they were using the warp, and, you know, how the Emperor overcame them, and some of the various fights and duels and things that he had. And so you could actually, you were like, really see the Emperor in action and all that kind of stuff. I think it'd be pretty sick. Yeah, the endgame demons are absolutely pouring out of every surface now on the siege. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then just the description of him, you know, kind of buffing Loken and the others as he's still fighting, you know, this is the kind of stuff that I want to hear more of. But anyway, let's continue.
When Loken turns to look, he sees the colossal black form rolled onto its side like a beached whale. 2 spider legs upraised and curled like broken masts. Steam oozing from the deep lacerations that score its flank and breast. The Emperor is astride it, drawing his warblade free from the fatal wound. He jumps down off its bulk and, without a backward look to his companions, resumes his onward stride. They hurry to follow, passing close to the dead beast's massive carcass. Blood and tainted liquor is still pouring out of it like water from burst pipes or rain from busted gutters. The torrents fall with such force they raise a fetid fume of moisture and spray in which eerie rainbows shimmer. The trio wade through the lake of blood, slowly expanding around the monstrous corpse. Beyond, the ancient stone path threads through the silent cyclopean ruins and fog-shrouded hollows. Unseen things call out in the darkness. The harsh shriek of loons, the screech of owls. From everywhere comes the burbled chorus of amphibians, lurking in pools and waterlogged stone cisterns, and in the marsh depressions where the mist is thickest. The toad song and frog throat babble is a constant drone, and the longer Loken hears it, the more it resembles the modulated pulse chatter of 1,000 Norse code units broadcasting at once. There is a sound behind it, like the sigh of the wind. It's whispering. It's the rustling dry spit of firewood eaten by flames. The path ascends, climbing the slope of a blasted heathland where the dead brown brush is punctuated by tumbled blocks and commemorative obelisks. Pink lightning flares and flashes behind the brow of the rise. Beside the path, the giant blocks of the ancient city stand like mourners, drab and grey, massive and intimidating. There are rows of ancient archways, bearded with weeds, and the stumps of towers that, when intact, must have risen higher than any steeple of the palace. Nearby, a scatter of square and oblong sarcens mark the site of something long demolished. Each block is perfectly angled and shaped, and the smallest must weigh 100 tons.
It's interesting. So it sounds like the warp itself, like, has almost created its own kind of like world inside Horus's ship, right? So like, his ship is still, you know, an outside real space the size of a ship, but inside, because it's connected to the warp, it's got almost like its own world that's being built and constructed by the warp or the demons or Horus or whatever in this. And so they're like walking through this kind of like demonic cityscape. It's kind of interesting.
They cover the slope to the right side of the path for kilometers, like the giant building blocks of some child titan abandoned after play. To the left of the path runs a row of blackened flying buttresses, spiked and finialed to such a grotesque degree they look as though their maker intended to mimic coils of razor wire out of jetstone. Whatever structure they were designed to support has long since vanished, apart from a single low wall of murky marble that runs for several hundred meters. Loken's Vox warbles and partial data blinks incoherently across his visor. The Emperor is ahead of them, his pace unrelenting. Loken leaves the path and steps up several tumbled blocks of stone until he's on top of the marble wall. He starts to walk along its length, still following the others on the path below. "Captain Loken," Kekaltus calls. "Some contact," Loken replies. "Stand by." The transmission, whatever it is choppy and corrupted. No signal is behaving properly in this infernal realm. Loken had hoped that a raised position might improve reception. The data flicks and fidgets across his display, blotchy and incoherent. What little he can fix originates to the left of them, at a distance of several kilometers. He turns to look from his raised vantage. The ruin-pocked heath stretches away into the glowering distance. The locator says west, but he knows that's meaningless. The compass has no cardinal points here, in a place where even time has no direction. "Rejoin us, Captain Loken," Kekaltus instructs from below. They are leaving him behind. "One moment," Loken replies. He jumps up magnification, scanning the horizon, adding a tactical overmap that slackly but not unexpectedly zeroes on all values. Far away, 10 kilometers at least, the scrubby brown heathland gives way to a flatter dust bowl of alkali and loess, more like the dry wasteland they left behind hours earlier. He can make out a jumble of ruins, the scrappy derelict husk of the inevitable city, stretching out interminably. There is a shape of some size. He realizes that it's part of a Terran orbital blade, a massive segment of one of the suborbital arcologies that formed airborne continents before the throne world fell. It lies, crumpled and uneven like a discarded mattress across part of the ruined city. I
thought he was going to say like he found Abaddon or some of the other guys from the Mournival. And they were going to end up having to deal with them, but I guess not.
Magnification shows a distinct flash and spark of weapons fire. He scans the data channels again, subjecting them to the deepest signal analysis his armor can provide. He isolates partial snatches of Orse code and fragments of marker icons. "Pre-consul," he calls. "Captain, I'm detecting forces engaged 10 kilometers west." He pauses, realizes the redundancy of the statement and points instead. 10 kilometers that way. Full specifics are unclear, but I believe it is your Captain General and his Anabasis company. I think they have engaged the Old Legion head-on. On the path below, Kekaltus and Litu stop and look up at him. "Should we signal them?" Loken asks. "Attempt to signal." He sees Kekaltus bow his head in silent consultation. The golden figure ahead of them has not stopped walking. "No, Captain," Kekaltus decides. "But surely," Loken begins, "if they could disengage and move to link up with us," Litu says to Kekaltus, "surely we could use the strength."
Yeah, but that would just bring people to them too.
Loken adds, leaping down from the marble wall and landing on his feet beside.
I mean, you're kind of on like a stealth assault mission, right? You're a small group of people that are trying to get in there to basically assassinate Horus. So like calling attention to yourselves is not going to do anything in your favors. And all you're going to do is stall the Emperor out and make him have to deal with other things or give away his position. Though, you would think, right, in this kind of warp setting, a figure like the Emperor with his psionic energies would probably be a giant beacon saying, I am here anyway, right? So people like creatures in the warp and Horus or whatever would probably know where he is anyway. I don't know. I could be wrong, but anyway.
The situation seems severe. I can't give accurate numbers, but the 16th is there, and the word bearers too. I believe they are led by First Captain Abaddon. Believe? Asks Kikaltus. A partial tag marker, says Loken. An old friend? Asks Leetu. Loken glances at him. He seems so odd for someone not to know Abaddon by name or reputation. We will take no action, Captain, says Kikaltus and turns to continue on his way. Pre-consul, Loken snaps. My King of Ages is aware, says Kikaltus. He is determined that the Captain General and his companions are providing us with an effective diversion. They are keeping a significant portion of the First Found's garrison aboard this ship, occupied.
Yep.
This ship. It is beyond Loken's ability to accept the idea that all of this wasteland, this endless city, this eternal psychoscape is somehow still contained within the structure of the vengeful spirit.
That's just what I was saying earlier, right? Like, that'd be kind of crazy. Just, you enter a ship, right? Well, I assume they teleport up there from somewhere on Terra, right? So they don't necessarily, I would guess, have any kind of concept of boarding the ship from space. But yeah, I mean, the idea that this is supposed to be a ship with a limited volume, right? You're only supposed to be able to have so many levels and so much space, but they essentially are on what effectively is like another planet. I mean, they're walking through the warp, essentially. This is what it seems like.
We continue, says Kikaltus. The Captain General and his companions may die, says Loken, and they will have done so with dignity and valor, and they will have helped us to achieve a successful closure of this venture. Loken and Leetu glance at each other. The pre-consul's voice is so cold, so analytical and flat in its effect. The Emperor's mind is set. They are not stopping for anything. Loken and Erda's legionary fall in step behind the pre-consul. The wind has picked up, biting across the heath and nodding the dry, russet brush and spina. Lightning, shocking pink and neon bright, tears the pyrocumulus cloud cover. Beyond the crest of the hill, an army waits for them. The word-bearers are drawn up in company strength. 100 men with some cataphracti and several Leviathan siege dreadnoughts that tower over the Astartes, broad and heavy. Behind them rises a pile of giant granite blocks, stacked and wedged haphazardly so as to form a crude stepped pyramid. An artificial mountain. From its darkness, the buzz and sputter of whispers fills the air. The mountain has a yawning mouth, a jagged gateway of stupendous height that the word-bearers have drawn up to guard. The Emperor and his 3 companions come to a halt at the top of the hill. The overgrown path they were following snakes down through the parched brush of the heathland and winds like a thread all the way to the mountain's maw. The traitor company straddles that path in wide formation. They stand, motionless, but for the sway of their banners in the heathland wind. Loken surveys the unmoving ranks, the glowering visors, the deep-set darkness of their eye slits in which yellow dots glint. The feathered broom crests and plumes of officers, the studded pauldrons and weathered plate, the grilled snouts and cage masks, the breeze-tugged tabards, the implacable set of iron-heavy boots and sabatons, the heinous script etched on ceramite or inked on fluttering parchments, wax-sealed to armor joints. Their poses are utterly defiant, yet casual. Hammers leant across shoulders, long swords and chain blades resting tip down, mauls carried crosswise at hip height in both hands, great swords set upright at sides like spears, They seem like brigands, like vagabond thugs awaiting their prey with cool and leisurely confidence. Loken clears his throat and adjusts his grip on Rubio's blade. At his side, Litu says, "We can take them." The remark is so offhand, so flippant, it takes Loken by surprise, and he laughs with genuine amusement for the first time in years. "We can," says Kaltus, but his voice is not his own. The Emperor takes a single step forward. With an instant ripple of motion and clatter of arms, the traitors shift, raising weapons into proffers, lowering pikes and polearms to address. There is a loud and pneumatic thump whine like the amplified spit of a nail gun as the siege dreadnought's weapon pods open fire. Dazzling bolts of tank-killing las streak up the slope and vanish. The blazing bolts collapse and dissipate into clouds of flame 5 meters short of their target. Loken feels the ache of elevated psionics. He can almost see the invisible ripple of the mind shield the Emperor has raised as it is struck by the immense firepower. He hears the slap and hiss of...
Can you imagine being that scene, you know? Just being, I mean, even a space marine, right? Which is kind of... It's not necessarily like the pinnacle of what a human could be with, you know, genetic, but it's up there, right? Like they're even a space marine is considered like a mythological superhero in the 40K universe, right? So to even be a space marine like Loken and to just see the Emperor like waiting out and all kinds of gun and plasma fire coming out of him, and he's just sitting there walking at it, you know, using his psionic shield to basically block any kind of incoming attacks. Just looking like a Giga Chad. I'm sure hair flowing back in the wind, you know? That would just be crazy.
Las fire hitting nothing.
It's like if you had any kind of doubt of what the Emperor's power would be, or that he is the God Emperor, you know? I am the Emperor of mankind, and I'm this great and powerful thing. I'm not a god, by the way. Don't worship me, but look at me and all my greatness.
And being nullified. All kinetic force scattered. All thermal energy radiated away. Then the ache increases so sharply. Loken feels it in the sinus cavities of his head. His ears throb. The Emperor takes another step. He is raising his power claw, his warblade held low at his side in the other hand. Dazzling voltaics, that startlingly pure his irid blue accumulate in his palm and coil between his finger claws, jumping like plasma strings. He lets the gathered lightning go. It arcs from his raised hand, faults the sky above the blasted heath and strikes the ground just short of the traitor mass. There is a flare of black body radiation, a thunderclap of violent gas pressure change, an ionized bang of electrical discharge as gigajoules of energy are released.
Gigajoules.
The struck
Gigajoules
ground
for Giga Chad, you know?
The struck ground breaks. The shockwave widens, propagating plasmic fire that rolls into the word-bearer's lines, annihilating the ground into churning ash and obliterating the ranks of warriors.
If only Erebus was there, am I right? Am I right?
Standing upon it. They disintegrate, one by one. Shredded by heat and fire, hurled into the air, fused armor plates and scorched weapons spinning out of the destruction as debris that scatters, smoldering in a wide swath across the landscape. Nothing organic survives. The rolling wave of shock fire sweeps through the entire cohort, unstoppable, consuming everything, burning men whole like twig effigies, melting ceramite, igniting banners that burn wildly as they slump and fall. Cataphracti melt like wax.
If
The
only.
siege dreadnoughts, stubborn and defiant with their great armored bulks, burn with blue fire like drop pods on re-entry, and then burst, one by...
It really would be hard to like see this and not think of the Emperor as some kind of god being, dude. Like, I mean, right, like there are psychers out there and there are powerful ones, but to see like the absolute pinnacle of psionic power in human form that is capable, and what it is capable of doing right here with the Emperor, like literally wiping out what, like is this like a legion of word bearers? I don't know how many. I don't remember if he said a specific number, but a bunch of word bearers with just warp lightning, you know, like literally Emperor Palpatine here doing the unlimited power scene and just wiping people out. Like, how would you not? I like, for real, it would be difficult to not think of the Emperor as some kind of, you know, deity, godly being.
I won in titanic explosions as their payloads cook off.
Yeah.
When the glare fades and the ache subsides, there is nothing left, apart from an acre or two of churned and blackened ground.
Only an acre or two, you know, just one guy clears an acre or two of just charred, blackened, melted, and anything that was there that was a bad guy is vaporized too. Just a couple of acres, you know, casually.
Fragments of plate and heat-darkened armor segments litter the burn area, and the heathland wind...
Well, I mean, that's what I mean too, right? Like, you're talking about having like regular psychers that can do that, and then you have the Emperor here who's beyond anything that they're capable of, right? And he's like, he's not even going full out with this, and he just casually levels an acre or two of stuff, you know? Right.
Drives the hot smoke sideways in a long, white plume. The Emperor resumes his advance, following the path down the slope. His three companions follow. The brush on either side of them is burning in many places where superheated, outthrown debris has ignited the dry spina and scrub, like some moorland clearance. The brown undergrowth squirming with the gold and amber worms of slow-burning roots. The quartet approaches the mouth of the mountain and passes under its shadow. Inside, the darkness is palpable, enclosing them like heavy felt. After a few steps, the Emperor increases his radiance to drive it back, his ornate armor glowing with an inner light that suffuses the blackness. By that light, as they advance, they see the gloomy mausoleum majesty of the inner chambers. It is like a tomb, but one long robbed out. The echoes of their footsteps circle back to them from the high and shadowed ceilings. Beyond a third great arch, the tomb dwindles, or rather, mingles. The psychotexture becomes something else, the bare stone walls of flaked marble and granite upon which can be seen the blurred figurings of long-lost inscriptions and reliefs begin to merge with plates of metal and corroded stanchions. Loken knows it at once. The vengeful spirit, which they have been inside all along, is slowly making itself visible again. Cables hang and drape in slack loops from the ruptured ceiling, the severed ends hissing and spitting weak sparks of power. The deck plates and underfloor gravitic grids and crumpled, torn, loose rivets snapped and scattered. Loken feels the irregular and uneven pools of artificial gravity they generate. Patches where he almost floats, and patches where he feels anchored like an anvil. He sees tortured bulkheads, slabs of adamantine and plasteel ruptured and mutilated by the caress of chaotic power. They smell smoke, the stale odor of a fire extinguished and the rank stench of death. There is a carnal house, an ossuary, a place of extinction and grave mold. Sacrifice has been made here. And recently, some thrice damned rite, a savage offering at the altar of a butcher god. Something has died. Something
blood
else
for the blood
has lived
god
on in a way that it should not have. The air is full of whispers, a rasping hymn of emptiness. Everywhere the stench of terror. They advance. The Emperor's steady stride has not faltered or diminished. He carries his light deeper into the darkness. They come to the skulls. Just a few at first, human skulls scorched and fractured, jaws missing. They litter the broken deck like scree on a mountain path. They become more numerous and start to heap and pile like rubble, a carpet of skulls that crack and dry splinter under their feet, a slope of skulls that scatter and tumble as they begin to ascend. A mound of skulls. The Emperor leads the way without effort. Loken, Kekaltas, and Litu follow, clawing their path up the loose, unstable mass. They see a light above, a crepuscular glow. The skulls, heaped up in such quantity, Loken cannot bear to estimate a number, form a long, steep ramp that leads to the shorn-away end of the next deck level. Lumen units in wire cages cast a harsh blue glare. The lights are ultraviolet. Loken can detect a shrill hum at the outside edge of his hearing. This is emergency lighting. Decontamination protocols. The flagship, riddled with infection, is vainly trying to negate its corruption.
Interesting.
They step from the skull slope.
It's kind of an interesting idea, like the ship itself is trying to fight against the warp and the corruption of the warp. Huh. So I would also wonder, right, are there other... because... not like just like Loken didn't, turn and become traitor. I'm sure there are other Sons of Horus that didn't. So I wonder if there are more of them on the ship. But I mean, that's part of what the SFAN 3/SFAN 5 stuff was. So I don't know how many more loyal Sons of Horus there would be, but maybe during this situation, some of those who may have committed to Horus might have had second thoughts now after seeing some of this stuff and might be trying to fight back against it. I don't know. That'd be kind of interesting. Some ships have, yeah. Well, and I mean, is it the machine spirit or is it AI? That's the question that I've always had. Is a lot of the machine spirit they talk about, I think, is really just AI stuff that's left over from dark age of technology era stuff. And the AI is smart enough to act dumb so as not to be purged or destroyed. Also, the ship is alive and a demon ship now. Yeah. So it's just interesting.
Onto the deck plates. The walls respire softly. It is sunset red in the hallway. Like being outdoors in the barren seabeds of Mars or the lava fields of Medusa. Light, almost blood red, strobes slightly, flickering through leaves swayed by the wind or something like leaves. Loken ignores such trickery. He can hear whispering again, like dead leaves skittering in the breeze or shushing underfoot. Like the dry wing cases of beetles, like whirring moths. What is it they are whispering? He can almost make out the words. A name. One name, uttered and repeated. Father. Ahead, the severed corridor ends in a doorway. Its frame is made of carved human bone.
Creepy.
They step through it and find themselves in a narrow tunnel. It is barely wide enough for them to move along it, the black wall sheer on either hand. Loken looks up and sees that the walls soar high above him. It's not a tunnel, it's a tight ravine, a fissured seam split between the towering cliffs. They advance. The ground is damp, dark rock so smooth it seems to have been worn by millennia of footsteps, all making the same dread pilgrimage they are undertaking. After 30 meters, the crevasse starts to taper. The walls become closer, constricting them. Loken thinks he can see a vertical bar of pale light far ahead. They are forced to turn sideways and edge their way along to fit. It is claustrophobic. Despite the endless space above, the cliff walls compress and scrape against their armor. Loken can see that the cliffs are made of human bones, braided together like sheaves. They are dripping, wet, oily with black ooze.
Disgusting.
Another few sideways steps and Loken begins to wonder if the crevasse will taper so much they will be unable to continue. It begins to feel as though the walls will wedge them tight or clench them together and crush them. The Emperor, by far the largest of the four of them, leads the way.
Yeah.
He is impatient and has no time for the obstacles the pyrotexture throws at him, or for any ritual meaning or symbolic significance in the procession of stages they are being made to follow to gain access to the shrine. For a shrine it most surely is. A shrine, a lair, a god nest. He has no intention of observing the decreed rites of entry and submission. He halts and passes his warblade to Kekaltus. The massive sword is a burden, even for the mighty companion. The Emperor places his hand...
So that's kind of interesting right there, right? The idea that... Kekaltus is, I believe he's custodian, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. But if the Emperor's warblade is even difficult for a custodian to use, right? Like, that's kind of crazy. Because, I mean, well, Gilliman's the one that has it right now, right? Gilliman's the one that has his flaming sword. But I think even Gilliman, right, because he's not a psyker, isn't able to use the sword's full potential. So I wonder, right, like, just the fact that the sword literally was made for the Emperor by the Emperor, and because Gilliman's not a psyker, like, just the psyker side of it alone, he's not able to use it to its full potential. But does Gilliman have, you know, trouble using the sword physically to its full potential anyway, just because of how heavy or unwieldy it is, you know? I don't really know how many stories it's gotten into with Gilliman using it, right? As far as I know, there's only the one where he's like initially returned and kicked the shit out of all the word bearers that were around him at the time.
Flat on the wall of the narrow defile. He presses. Nothing happens at first. Then Loken hears a grinding rumble. Scraps of rock, pebbles and dust patter down from high above. The cliff walls slowly part, scraping aside, forced by inhuman strength as the Emperor slowly flexes and straightens his arms. Now the gap is wide enough. The Emperor lowers his hands, reclaims his blade and walks on. They step into the open. The Lupercal Court. Loken knows what it is, though he has never seen the place before. He stares at the vast space, the fluted columns, the arches spring.
I wonder if this is where a lot of the Mournival rituals would have taken place, right? I believe it's weaker now, but still holds some ambiguous power. Yeah, it's something like that. It's not... I know the sword isn't like at its full potential, and I know it can only really be used at its full potential in the hands of the Emperor, right? That's my understanding anyway. And maybe it's something like in D&D, right, where like once you become attuned to it, it kind of forms itself to the wielder. So like maybe Gilliman, now that he's like gotten a hold of it, it's, you know, become more wieldly for him. It's essentially changed itself so that he can use it properly, even though it's not at its full potential.
From their imposts to support the towering ribcage of the ceiling. The floor of mirror-polished stone reflects none of them except the golden shimmer of the Emperor.
Exactly.
The scale is vast and damning, a belittling, artificial, infinite. Loken gazes at the horror of it, the oppressive space, the constricting immensity. It is a necrotic cathedral of graven ebony and gothic black marble. It is a carrion temple of oblivion, lit by a rancid glow of bloodlight. Loken hears Litu gasp. He turns and sees the angel.
Oh.
The bright lord of Baal, head bowed and turned to the left, is crucified against the far wall. He hangs like an icon or relic, a sacred sigil to be worshipped and knelt before.
Yeah, that would be a crazy sight to stumble upon, right? Think about it. Seeing one of the Primarchs not only like killed, but crucified, right? You know, I mean, because again, like the Primarchs in and of themselves are basically demigods, right? With only the Emperor being above them. So to see a Primarch actually dead, it would also kind of really reinforce the fact that Horus has been corrupted and he's not really able to be saved at this point. And you really have, it really kind of would, like, in my mind anyway, right? Like if I was Loken, it would sharpen my resolve and make me realize that yes, this was done at the hands of Horus. There is no other option. He has to be destroyed. You know what I mean? Yeah, look how they massacred my boy. Yeah, exactly.
His arms and wings are outstretched, his golden war gear dented and torn.
And it really is also like one of those what if scenario questions, you know, if, because a lot of the Primarchs really believed that Sanguinius should have been the War Master, right? He was the one that was really, Sanguinius was the one that was really kind of liked by all the Primarchs. There really wasn't, none of the Primarchs really had any kind of beef with Sanguinius, whereas with some of the other ones, a lot of them need to get along with each other, didn't necessarily agree with each other in a lot of things. So it's like, you know, had the Emperor made Sanguinius the War Master, how would things have been different? You know what I'm saying? And again, that gets into a whole other line of questioning about the Emperor's plan, and was this part of it all along? Did the Emperor really see this? And if he did see this and he knew how it was going to play out, why didn't he do anything? Blah, 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 blah. And it gets into that whole line of questioning of, you know, is this all part of a plan for something greater? You know, does humanity have to go through another essentially period of dark ages for them to come out better in the long run? Anyway, let's continue.
Too many, far too many black spikes have been driven through his body and limbs. The black wall beneath his arms and feet is washed red with the blood that has run down to pool beneath him in the litter of white feathers. No.
Yeah.
Murmurs Loken.
Well, and I mean, just the, like, what, Sanguinius beat Angron and like 2 demon princes? Like, he beat Angron, he beat another demon prince, and at least a greater demon or another demon prince before he even fought Horus. So, like, he was already kind of tapped out energy-wise. And then, again, like you said, kind of the only real reason Horus beat him is because he was juiced up at that point. Right? So, I mean, like, yeah.
No. My king, Caecaltus says, showing the first emotion, true compassion, that Loken has ever known him express. The preconsul is genuinely shocked. He knows too well that Sanguinius prophesied his own death, and despite his father's efforts, went to meet it. He is braced to bear his master's grief. None comes. The Emperor ignores his companion. He steps towards the body on the wall. When he rejected the promise of godhood, he excised a great deal of his emotional core, too. He numbered his feelings so that crimes like that could not be turned into weapons against him.
Yeah.
Take him down.
Loken and Caecaltus hurry forward and try to pluck out the black iron nails. Leto looks at the Emperor. Is it here? He asks, apparently unafraid of the master of mankind.
Sanguinius was the best of them.
But terrified of what the answer might be.
Yes, Leto.
Horus smiles. the cathedral shifts. Loken and Kekalta's turn. They have dragged the last nail out of the cornerstone and colder flesh and are trying to lower the angel's limp and heavy body to the ground as gently as they can. His blood has smeared them both. They hear the smile, not the grind and scrape of stone, nor the rumble of fractal architecture as it folds and realigns, resetting the obsidian columns and the black, gothic arches. Not the creak and squeal of the endlessly ramifying psychotexture as it counter-rotates like a kaleidoscope to make a bigger and yet more distressing tabernacle of ruin. They hear the smile. They hear the smile of the thing that emerges from the intersection between reforming columns.
Hell of a smile if you can hear
A
it.
demonic abomination in humanoid form, sheathed in internal plate and bathed in bloodlight. A god monster that steps into the court out of an unfolding flower of black bone. Father, says the smile.
All right. Well, there we go. There we go. That was the end of the Death 3. Emperor Marches to Horus, voiceover prelude by DQVO. Links, as always, will be down below in the description to the original video without my commentary interaction and to DQVO's channel. So please do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video of his, go over there, be sure to hit that like and hit that sub button on his channel if you want to support him. Check out the rest of his content. I mean, great video, great description. I mean, stories like this are stories that I really want to hear more of. I've said this numerous times in my 40K videos. The Emperor, to me, is the most interesting character simply just because he's so much of a mystery. We don't really know, at least from all the stuff that I've gotten into and learned about, there's just so many questions that surround him. Is he really human? Is he something else? Is he one of the old ones who has transmuted himself into human form, put their essence, soul, or whatever, merged with the human, you know, in order to use humanity as a means of getting back at chaos or getting back at the, you know, Macarons or Catan or whatever the case may be to, you know, remake the galaxy in the image that they wanted to? Is he really just, you know, some kind of, is the shaman theory the right one, where, you know, in ancient times a group of powerful psycho-humans saw what the future was going to be and through some ritual sacrificed themselves to combine their souls into one all-powerful being? And I mean, is everything that's going on part of what the Emperor's plan is or not, etc., etc. But I just want to hear more stories of like the Emperor in action and actually seeing him do things, seeing him fight, seeing what his capabilities are, and seeing what kind of person he is. Because again, like in Warhammer Fantasy, Sigmar is the closest thing to the Emperor, and in Warhammer Fantasy you get to kind of really see a lot of the feats and deeds and things Sigmar does, both as a human and now I guess in Age of Sigmar as a god. And so I would like to see more stuff like this from the Emperor. And again, as I said earlier in this video, I think a great place to explore that would be, you know, during the Unification Wars, whether they decide to go back in book form and kind of revisit that time period in the books, or again, you know, in the Amazon Cinematic Universe, if they wanted to do something unique that hasn't been done in the books. You know, seeing that for the first time and seeing those stories told in the first time, especially in a cinematic format, if it's done right, that's the big if, you know, it could be really good and epic. And just seeing the Emperor as, you know, a person and seeing what his real motivations and actions are, and maybe getting more of a glimpse of what he's really trying to accomplish with humanity and what his real plan is. etc., etc. You know, I don't know. Those are all questions that I really have. So it's just stories like these are things that I would love to see more of, where we actually really get to see the Emperor in action, and see him actually do some stuff instead of just being this kind of plot device that sits on the throne, hands out miracles occasionally. Is he dying? Is he not? Is he getting more powerful? You know, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Hopefully Games Workshop in the future, as they are progressing the present timeline in the 40K universe, we'll get some more answers with that, you know. But yeah, like I said, great video by DQVO. Links down below in the description as always to his stuff, so go check him out, give him a like, give him a sub, all that stuff. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video with my commentary and reaction. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and the channel grow. If you'd like to take your support for my channel to the next level, there's a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube members and benefits, and all that stuff that I have to offer. So if you'd like to take a look at that, you know, see if any of that would have any interest for you. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I really appreciate you guys if you're watching here through to the very end. It means a lot. And yeah, hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. We'll see you guys on the next.